Your hands are on the wheel, your foot is on the pedal. The only thing that's missing is the road. The University of Calgary has the most advanced driver simulation lab in Canada, and the psychology department is using it to find out if driving and talking don't mix.
We wanted to look at how cellular phone conversations contribute to driver distraction.
Jason Labarge is a psychology student using this cell phone project as his master's thesis. He's trying to find out if drivers are more distracted during a conversation on a cellular phone than during a conversation with a passenger.
What we thought is that because the passenger is in a position to see the driving situation, they can potentially regulate the conversation.
The feeling of driving is so real that participants sometimes suffer motion sickness, but that's as risky as the research gets. Dr. Jeff Caird is a professor in charge of the lab.
It doesn't put people in harm's way and allows us a better understanding of what people do in emergency contexts.
Banning driver cell phone conversations is a hot topic for legislators. If this research shows a connection between phone conversations and driver distraction, it could make a difference.
It makes a pretty potent argument for how the legislation might not be as effective as some people think.
Technology is definitely getting faster and more efficient, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we are. And researchers are hoping that this kind of work will let us know exactly when it's appropriate to use technology in our everyday lives. From the University of Calgary, I'm Elise Campbell, A-Channel News Now. 2 years ago, Barbara Moore was dancing for joy. She had a starring role with Alberta Ballet. She was working in her hometown of Calgary, and she was awaiting the birth of her first child. But months later, she lost her job.
It was probably one of the worst periods of my whole entire life, emotionally and mentally and everything. It was very hard on myself as well as my family.
Moore launched a wrongful dismissal lawsuit. She said the firing was related to her age and the fact she had had a baby. The ballet said it was because her dancing wasn't up to par. They settled out of court after a bitter battle. But now she's back on the payroll as a teacher, mentor, and shoe supervisor. It's a far cry from center stage, but she's taking it in stride.
I'm on the other side now. You know, I'm at the front of the studio, whether I'm choreographing or teaching or whatever, and it's different.
The arts have always been a subjective field, and appearance is often a factor when hiring and firing decisions are made. But the matter becomes much more complicated when courts become involved. Jean Grandmaitre is the new artistic director of Alberta Ballet, hired after the lawsuit was settled. A former dancer and partner of Moore, he knows the line between finesse and fairness can be delicate.
Dance is a community art. You work as a group, but it is not a democracy, and it should never be a democracy. Because when you have democratic art, you have very mediocre art.
For now, Barbara Moore has put the past behind her and has become a firm believer that good things can come out of bad situations.
As they say, you know, builds character. I'd love to give away some of my character.
Moore is currently at Alberta Ballet part-time. Both she and Grandmaitre hope one day to expand her role. Elise Campbell, A-Channel News Now. Demand for housing in Calgary is causing a building bonanza. The city has seen a steady rise in construction sites and now construction fires. Tens of millions of dollars up in flames in Earlton and Country Hills. Dean Slater is with Canna Construction. He says the insatiable demand may be part of the problem.
There continues to be a shortage of qualified workers, both in the supervisory level and in the trade workers.
Both fires were started accidentally by a roofer's torch, raising the question, were they being used properly? Captain John Conley is with the Calgary Fire Department.
We don't feel there's a trend there. Is there a concern by all means with the high profile and amount of damage that has occurred on these two fires? Definitely a concern from that standpoint.
Schools are busy trying to recruit students for their journeyman programs. But in the meantime, the easiest way to get a job on a construction site is to simply walk up and ask to talk to the foreman. Ben Kawaguchi is with the Karma Center, an organization devoted to high training standards and recruiting workers to the trades.
There's tradition of what we call mentorship within the industry, where older workers take care of younger workers and train them, and I think that's where the apprenticeship system comes from.
Essentially, there hasn't been a substantial increase in the number of construction fires. Nevertheless, perception is there, and insurance companies have taken notice. Rates rose dramatically following the Earlton fire. So in the end, perhaps the biggest fire will be the one burning a hole in consumer wallets. Elise Campbell, A Channel News Now.